Welcome back. If you think the last some number hours were chaotic, let me tell you something. They are only just getting started. We have a single voice dominating our screens, a voice that is screaming about a golden age, while simultaneously pointing fingers at everything from Canadian forests to election documents from 6 years ago. This isn't governance. This is a performance art piece of moral panic and manufactured triumph rolled into one. And the markets? The markets are just along for the ride, swinging wildly as every new thread drops like a bomb on our collective attention span. Let's start with the headline grabber because we have to address it immediately: the inflation numbers. He is touting what he calls such great news in June's inflation numbers. His exact words are that prices fell by the most in a single month in over 6 years. He says this drop was below the forecast of every single economist, some number, according to him, that Bloomberg polled. That is an extraordinary claim right out of the gate. He lists off categories: gasoline, electricity, auto insurance, hotels, prescription drugs. And then he hits you with the real wage argument. With strong wage growth and a decline in prices in June, real wages rose a massive 0.8%. But look at what he posted to back this up. He shared an image, a bar chart titled, "The First President to Bring Down Prescription Drug Prices." It displays data from Nixon through Trump 47, projected. Every single bar is above zero, except for one red bar labeled Trump 47, which dips below the line into negative territory. The text at the bottom notes this as a CEA analysis of BLS data. There are no people in that chart, just presidential names and percentage values. It's clean, it's stark, and it is designed to make you feel like we have arrived at some utopia where medicine costs nothing. He says prices were down across the board. He paints a picture: investment pouring into our country, factory construction surging, manufacturing jobs rising. And his conclusion: the golden age of America is here. But hold on to your hats because while he's celebrating this golden age in one breath, he's tearing apart the very fabric of American policy and international relations with the other. He pivots instantly from economic triumphalism to a courtroom victory that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a grievance novel. Big win in court for the American people, he declares regarding what he calls the so-called Digital Equity Act. He labels it a Biden DEI law, calling it exactly what he said last year: a racist and unconstitutional giveaway that never should have become law. He accuses Sleepy Joe and the Democrats of using our tax dollars to divide Americans instead of serving all Americans. He says Howard Lutnick, his Secretary of Commerce, fought it at his direction, and now the court has agreed with him. He calls this a massive victory for common sense and our Constitution. Think about the timing here. In one post, he is celebrating record-breaking investment. In another, he is framing federal law as an act of racial division that only he could stop. The moral urgency is palpable, but it feels constructed, built on a foundation where every policy decision from his predecessors is a crime and every court ruling for him is divine justice. And then we move to the industrial base. This is where the numbers get even more specific, or at least, that's what he wants you to think. He says for decades politicians allowed our industrial base to move overseas because their trade policies encouraged companies to find cheap labor and build products in Asia. When I took office, he writes, we didn't build leading-edge semiconductor chips here in America. Now comes the big announcement. TSMC, which he calls the largest leading-edge semiconductor chip manufacturer in the world, has announced an additional some number dollar investment in their fabrication factories in Arizona. That brings their total commitment to a record some number and some number dollars. He attributes this entirely to his trade policies and deals. From automobiles, pharmaceuticals, to semiconductors, he says, the Trump administration is bringing advanced manufacturing home. And the kicker: if you come build here, there are no tariffs. Welcome to the golden age of America. But wait, because if we are talking about tariffs, why is he now threatening our neighbors across the border with more of them over air quality? This next thread is where it gets truly dangerous and deeply cynical. He writes, we are holding Canada responsible for the fact that they are not properly maintaining their forests. He claims the United States is being invaded by filthy, polluted, unhealthy air that is dangerous and totally unacceptable. He says he will call the Prime Minister to find out what they are going to do about it, because the cost is incalculable. He accuses Canada of refusing basic forest management and debris removal, calling this willful negligence. And here is where the rhetoric shifts from policy to punishment. This pollution must of necessity be added to the TARIFFS Canada is currently paying. He says it costs us some number of dollars. So we have a situation where he claims record economic success at home, while simultaneously threatening an ally with financial strangulation over smoke and forest fires that are, by nature, transboundary environmental disasters. And let's talk about what the markets did here. As these threads dropped, first the inflation victory lap, then the court win on DEI, then the semiconductor some number, then the tariff threat against Canada. The cryptocurrency markets moved violently. Bitcoin swung back and forth. Ethereum reacted with choppy volatility. We saw movement after every single post. The market doesn't know whether to believe in this golden age or fear the next trade war announcement. It is a roller coaster of uncertainty driven entirely by his keyboard. But he isn't done pivoting. From international threats, we move straight into domestic political succession, planning with a heavy dose of personal loyalty and emotional manipulation. He writes about welcoming Senator Darling Graham Nordon, the sister of the late Lindsey Graham, into the Oval Office. He calls her spectacular, a true American patriot, someone who shares his brother's deep love for the country. He says during her visit he asked her to run for the U.S. Senate in the special Republican primary on Tuesday, August 11, 2026. I hope Darling does this, he writes, in that there would be nobody better to honor the legacy of her beloved brother. He gives her his complete and total endorsement. Run, DARLINE, run, is how he signs off. It's a masterclass in using personal grief as political currency. While we are supposed to worry about inflation or tariffs, here he is leveraging the memory of a senator who died on duty to secure another seat for him. It connects back to his narrative. If you leave this golden age, someone else takes your place. If you don't get in line now, you lose out. Then we hit the darker undercurrents, the posts about vandalism and crime. He talks about the reflecting pool being emptied because it was badly damaged by deranged vandals who slashed it. He asks, what kind of animals would do such a thing? He says they are looking for vandal-proof material, but believes such measures shouldn't be necessary. Then he pivots to the courts again, referring to them as the scum in court, and saying those responsible will hopefully be prosecuted to the max. And then there is this image he posted. A man and woman standing smiling inside an ornate government office with gold moldings, a chandelier, red carpeting, Persian rugs, and flags. The US, Italian, and diplomatic ones. The caption says, Italian embassy as fully renovated by a great American patriot. He demands New York City needs this kind of loving care too. And then he drops the claim, DC is the best example, all cleaned up and safe. Crime down 95%, some number percent. That number just appears out of nowhere in his text. It's a staggering figure that implies total order has been restored to our capital, while he simultaneously complains about vandals slashing pools and scum courts. The image shows smiling people in luxury, but the words scream danger. And then we arrive at the most disturbing posts yet, the ones about election integrity documents. He shares a link saying they are available for review on whitehouse.gov. But it's what he posted alongside that text that chills you to your core. He shared two images of email chains. The first is dated November 1920, 2020, from the NSA. It has redactions everywhere but references massaging a PDB report, splitting it into 13 reports not due until next week, and cross-boasting or downgrading for incorporation regarding election threats. The second image shows the first page of an email chain stamped in bright red at the top. DCLASSIFID by President Trump on 3 July 2026. The subject line is about NSA deliberately massaging elections PDB, and it involves the Director of National Intelligence. He posts these as proof. He wants us to look back 6 years later and see what he claims was a deliberate cover-up by intelligence agencies regarding election threats in November 2020. He pairs this with his earlier post about the Digital Equity Act being racist, building a narrative that every institution, the courts, the media, the intelligence community, was working against him until now. And yet, while he is releasing these declassified emails and threatening Canada, and celebrating drug prices dropping to negative CPI in his chart, what are we seeing? We see Bitcoin moving again. Ethereum swinging again. The market reacts to every word, but it cannot find a direction because the narrative itself has no consistent gravity. He ends with a demand, pass the Save America ACT, after getting great reviews on a speech last night in front of a big audience. He wants legislation passed while he is simultaneously threatening tariffs over air quality and releasing classified NSA emails from 2020. Let's be clear about the timeline here. Inflation numbers down? Great if true. But then immediately we are told Canada must pay for smoke with tariffs. Then a court ruling on DEI laws calls it racist. Then TSMC commits some number to Arizona. Then he asks Lindsey Graham's sister to run for Senate in August 2026. Then the reflecting pool gets slashed by vandals while DC crime drops 95%. And finally, NSA emails from November 2020 are declassified and posted as evidence of a conspiracy. It is too much. It is overwhelming because it is designed to be. He wants you to feel like he is the only one holding back chaos. The chaos of inflation, the chaos of racism in law, the chaos of foreign neglect, the chaos of crime, the chaos of intelligence cover ups. And yet, every time he posts about fixing something new, another crisis appears on his timeline. The markets moved through all of this, up and down, volatile, churning, but they cannot price in a world where reality is defined entirely by one man's thread count. We are living inside the script now. The golden age is here, he says, but it's an age built on accusations against neighbors, threats to allies, declassified secrets from 6 years ago, and charts that show negative drug prices for one president while every other bar in history goes up. It's a moral urgency wrapped in incredulity. How do we separate the truth of those inflation numbers from the tariff threat? How do we reconcile the scum courts with his courtroom victories? And how do we trust that declassified email when it's posted alongside claims that crime has dropped by 95%? The answer is simple: we don't. Not until he stops treating our democracy like a series of posts to react to and starts governing for something other than the next thread drop. The markets are swinging, but we shouldn't be following them blindly into whatever comes next in this golden age.